It's time for Twig This Week in Google. Aunt Pruitt is here. Well, he's actually not here. I sent him home. But he'll be on the show. Glenn Fleischman's filling in for Jeff Jarvis. Jeff has the week off, but we have a big announcement from Jeff. We'll also talk about victory in Britain for Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp and Apple Messages. We'll also talk about the end of the line for the Bored Apes Yacht Club. It's all coming up next on Twig.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twig.
This is Twig. This Week in Google, episode 732, recorded Wednesday, September 6th, 2023. Unidentified flying Skellington. This episode of This Week in Google is brought to you by Fastmail. Reclaim your privacy, boost productivity, and make email yours with Fastmail. Try it now free for 30 days at fastmail.com/twit. And by Melissa. More than 10,000 clients worldwide rely on Melissa for full-spectrum data quality and ID verification software. Make sure your customer contact data is up to date. Get started today with 1,000 records cleaned for free at melissa.com/twit. It's time for Twig, This Week in Google, the show where we cover the latest news from Google and everywhere else in the world. It's really, I'll be fair, it's the internet show, the show we cover the world out there. Jeff Jarvis has the week off. I will tell you why in a moment, but joining us in Jeff's place, the wonderful Glenn Fleischman from Glenn.fun. Hi, Glenn.
Ooh. Hello. How's everybody?
I am wonderful, and I appreciate your patience. We're starting a little late because I threw Aunt out of the studio. Aunt Pruitt's also here, our community manager at Discord, and he said, I have a scratchy throat, and I said, Goodbye, yep. Because I am going to be leaving on Sunday to go move my mom into a assisted living facility. I didn't want to bring any germs back with me. But Aunt has officially approved we are good to go. Fancy Aunt.
That's so good, Joe.
Joe Esposito and our Club Twit make stickers as we proceed. It's kind of a new thing. I've seen Tom Merritt does this with his Daily Tech News show. Sometimes he'll have Len Peralta sketch a cartoon as they're going. But I don't think there's anybody has stickers. So
nobody's got stickers on the fly like this.
Yeah, this king of on the fly. Thank you, Joe.
This is on the fly. And sir, I got to tell you, when people ask me about This Week in Google, I tell them it's a show about big tech. So
that's actually probably accurate. It is big tech. And there is a lot of big tech news. We'll go to England for the first story. Britain, well, I don't know if this is an optimistic headline or not. Wired magazine says Britain admits defeat in controversial fight to break encryption. You remember, we've been talking about this for weeks. The online safety bill, which, among other things, required plain text of all transmissions from all apps, including WhatsApp, Signal, Apple's messages. Signal and WhatsApp both said, you pass this bill, we're out of here, because it would essentially undermine end-to-end encryption. Government has admitted the spy clause in the online safety bill has been eliminated. The government has admitted that's because there is no technology that can do this without compromising users' privacy. WhatsApp.
It's not eliminated, though. Not eliminated. Not enforced. This is the key point. Is it's still in the law, but they're claiming they're not going to enforce it because they gave up and they don't. I mean, this is an ongoing thing, right? Is people in government who are not well informed believe there's a magic golden key that technologists are hiding from them that would let them have their cake and eat it too. Either that or they pretend that they think that exists, and they said, uncle, but it's still in the law. There's a lot of people on the privacy and security side saying, great that they're not enforcing this, but until it's actually the legislation would be revised and it was removed, it's an ongoing threat that could be reinvoked at any point, and the UK could try to pull something out of its, back pocket and push it.
When it comes to encryption in our government agencies sort of acting like they're totally against it, is it only because of they feel like it's a way of helping to catch people breaking the law before it really happens.
As usual,
things,
they're bringing up CSAM in this context, saying, well, how are we supposed to know if people are trading child sexual abuse material if we can't see every gosh darn message?
Although it turns out that a lot of the people engaged in CSAM turn out to be incredible, as one might not be surprised by, turn out to be incredibly bad at security. And you keep reading these stories every few months. There's a story that comes out. There was one just several months ago, I remember, where nobody involved was taking, thank goodness. I mean, this is a positive. Nobody involved was doing even the basics of any kind of information hygiene or security. So international law enforcement tracked them down and arrested dozens of people. It was easy to convict them. I mean, that's what the idea is, that being able to snoop on encrypted communications that people think is private would somehow replace good police work, when in the end it's almost always good police work that actually produces a result in these kinds of cases.
And that's an interesting thing to keep in mind when you hear about these stories, because we were talking about this yesterday, because Apple is in the news with this subject as well. And Alex Lindsay asserted, and he might be right, that whenever you hear anybody, England, Australia, anybody in the Five Eyes asking for this, it isn't really about child sexual abuse material. It isn't even really about terrorism. Those are the two paper tigers, the straw men that they raise. It's the American NSA pushing them, because law enforcement in America, especially the National Security Administration, does not like it that they can't see everything. The NSA has this big facility where they've been collecting all the electronic transmissions all along for the last decade and storing it. And for two reasons. One, someday they hope maybe with quantum encryption technology, they'd be able to break it. And two, frankly, the metadata is extremely valuable as well. And so this is that whole thing of going dark. And I remember talking to Phil Zimmerman of PGP fame about this. And he said, it's not an issue of going dark. He said, law enforcement, thanks to digital technology, has a beautiful 4K view of all the things that are going on. There are a couple of dark pixels, and it offends them. They have a couple of dark pixels. And that's really that's a much better analogy. It's not going dark. They have more information than ever before.
Yeah, because most of what they're doing is connecting people. They have to connect the dots, and the encrypted information, the stuff that they can't get at, it may be helpful to them to build a case or to find more participants. But here's the thing. I remember years ago, my friend Steve Manis was laughing about digital rights management on books, because he said, in order to read a book, you have to be able to look at the words. So no matter what kind of DRM they put on a book in any device, if you can read it, you can scan it. If you can scan it, you can OCR it. And so
analog hole, we call that.
Right, the analog hole. And it's like, if I can look at something, so the hole to all encrypted communications is that people view it. And now, while I would also prefer that governments release information about exploits that could affect people on a massive scale, which is a whole other debate. So instead of exploiting them, they actually patch them to improve all citizens' security. I also see that governments make use of exploits. They put in keyloggers. They do all kinds of surveillance and other things that are legal or legal within certain countries, things that we might agree have a valid purpose. And when they do that, they can look at the unencrypted stuff when it comes in, or they can grab the keys off that person's machine. They have so many tools at their disposal. It's the notion that there are secrets that will, essentially prevent the worst people in the world from ever being found. The whole, terrorists with a bomb example, there's never been a case in which you could actually extract that encryption of a kind that would be covered by one of these laws and that could be retrieved would have prevented an incident. That's not how it works. It's human intelligence is the key. People have to move around and do things.
Is there anything governments can do that will allow its citizens to trust them ever again?
There's a very deep question.
Great question.
Yeah, if we think back over these several decades and how
we used to trust the FBI, remember?
I was going to say, I'm going to speak for myself here. I'm not speaking for any of you, but I'll speak for myself. There's times I think back over several decades of things that I have learned and sort of just said, you know what, they're trying to take care of little old Aunt Pruitt and his family, and they're doing what's in the best interest of Aunt Pruitt and his family. And then I look back and it's like, No, not really. This was more about them and taking care of them, and they could give a crap about me. So why should I trust them? Is there anything they can do for people like me and everybody else to get that trust back?
Isn't it transparency? Isn't it being more open about the kinds of things they're doing and admitting when they're wrong? Because I mean, I have that same reaction as there's, the 9/11 was a terrible thing, but it was also a huge failure of the FBI and other federal and international law enforcement groups to ignore signals. But it also showed we've been so lucky in the United States, and many countries have been generally fairly lucky because we have had authorities like the FBI that have prevented broken up terrorist networks, tracked them down. We've seen a lot of stuff since. So, there's this thing about, like, when you look at local police, the clearance rate on crimes, like the actual number of crimes solved, is relatively small, kind of disheartening when you look at it. But when you look at sort of the international picture, it's like, what is the FBI doing? It's finding white supremacists who are making bombs. It's finding plots against governors. It's finding, eco-terrorists who planned to release a poison or something to, cut down or burn a tree. Here in Seattle, we had a vital botanical resource was almost fully destroyed because of eco-terrorism's concern about fast-growing trees. So, when they can track down and prevent things like that, you're like, all right, that feels aligned with my interests. Like that feels reducing terror, reducing the impact on especially vulnerable people or things like that. So I don't know. I feel like that's
the eye-opener that you've experienced. I think everybody now is kind of having that experience. And and I think honestly, I think it's always been that way because government is made of people, and people are kind of unreliable in this regard. I mean,
this is true.
I think as individuals, there are great law enforcement people who respect us and our rights and want to protect us. That's why they got into law enforcement. But I think there are also bad apples. We know that. But I think also as institutions, there becomes an institutional pressure in the direction of let's complete our mission at the cost of everything else. I've been really thinking about this. I've mentioned this a bunch of times. I've been reading a book about Robert Moses, LBJ. The same biographer's done a great series on LBJ, which I read.
When I get time, I want to read that.
It's really good because the fundamental question is, do the ends ever justify the means? And this is my point, is that these institutions are looking at the ends. We want to keep people safe. We want to end child pornography, child abuse, trafficking, terrorism. These are all great ends. Our Constitution directly addresses this, saying in pursuit of those ends, you may not do some of the things that you might want to do, like unreasonable search and seizure or cruel and unusual punishment, both of which would work very well to achieving those ends. Nevertheless, despite the fact that the Constitution prohibits it, there's such institutional pressure from every institution, including Congress, to achieve these ends. And the problem is that they're willing to compromise the means. And this is where we really get in trouble. And I think this has happened from time immemorial, that people get focused on the goal. So I'm giving them credit. I'm honoring them, saying, yeah, I know you're trying to protect us. And this is where I a little bit disagree with you, Glenn, because I don't think that they're dumb about the fact that there's no encryption technology that will do both things, protect our privacy and reveal the terrorists and the child pornographers. I don't think they're dumb about that. I think that they know that those things don't exist. They're just willing to give up privacy to achieve these ends. And I don't think they're doing it out of I'm giving them a lot of credit, but I don't think they're doing it out of a bad spirit. I think they really want to do a good thing. But they just kind of lose sight of the fact that there's such a huge compromise there. We can't go down that road.
I agree with you. I think it's both sides. I think you hear stories about, technologists going behind closed doors and talking to politicians.
They know. We tell them over and over and over again.
Yeah, but they don't believe it. They're like, come on, there's got to be a way. There's a way to do everything, and they simply won't believe it. Then, and I think that some percentage really just think, I mean, look at the distrust of experts. But I'm sorry, but I also agree with you. I think there are definitely
different
aspects of
yeah.
this. But think about the distrust of experts. If you're somebody who's not trained in computer science, haven't been a programmer, haven't worked in math, cryptography, and someone says, no, there's no way to do this, and you're like, look, I know that you can tap phone calls. Why can't you tap an IM chat? You're just telling me it can't be done because you don't want to do it, and I'm going to keep asking until I find someone who does. You definitely know that's going on too. But the UK situation to me seems like, weirdly, the first time that the only success there is it seemed like they were going to go through this no matter what. They were going to impose this, and it was going to be a problem. And then what happened? It seems like somebody blinked. I mean, even if it's it's still in law, it could still be enforced later, whatever. They said, we're not going to enforce it. And that is a big concession after all the effort put into it.
There's also, and I think this is appropriate for your situation. As a black man, it's reasonable for you to say, they're really not working in our interest. It's easier for a white member of Congress, a white male member of Congress, to say, well, I'm not worried about my privacy. But if you're an underclass, or if you're discriminated against, you're the first people who are going to get hurt by this. And so that's the other side of it, is Congress and this is Parliament too in the UK may say, well, it's going to be fine, don't worry, our privacy will be fine, and theirs probably will. And this was brought to my attention because I've always said, oh, come on, privacy. There's no such thing. Why worry about it? People pointed out that's a privileged point of view.
Exactly.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about it. So there's a great piece I recommend from Benedict Evans. He published this last week. When Tech Says No. Benedict is a smart guy. I think he used to work at Apple. Or maybe Microsoft. He's been in the tech industry for a long time. He's an analyst now. The tech industry always has a reason why any new laws or regulations are bad. Indeed, so does any industry. They always say that. It's bad. You don't want this. The trouble is, sometimes it's true, and some laws are or would be disasters. So which is it? So he talks about when an engineer says no, there's 3 reasons they say no. And he's talking specifically about this UK Investigatory Powers Act. He says, first, and this is the default, they're saying no because they just don't like it. Apple, Signal, WhatsApp, it's too much trouble. We don't want to do it. No. They have their own.
Right there.
Right. No. They have and I think a lot of times we're aware of that. And so we might think, well, they're just saying, and the Congress critters might say that too. They're just saying no because that's their default. They have their own opinion of how this should be done. They don't want outsiders making them change it. Apple, remember, said about being forced to use Type-C charging on their next iPhone. We just don't want government to tell us what technologies to use. That's a bad policy, right? So that's an example. The second reason, Ed Evans goes on, the tech industry or the doctors or the farmers might be saying no is because this really will have some very serious negative consequences that you, Mr. Parliamentarian, haven't understood. And he uses as an example this horrific law we passed in California, AB 5, which put freelancers at, it basically ended the intent was good. They wanted to protect Uber and Lyft drivers so they get health insurance, but it ended up basically making freelance work. And you know this because you lost your job because of it.
Lost a lot of money. Was not happy about that, bro.
Do you remember the California state legislator who was behind it, who is incredibly strong pro-union voice, and in the union aspect of things was terrific. And I'm not a Californian. I only know this by hearsay. She on Twitter was such a rabid, nasty person.
She was terrible.
People brought up valid concerns. I mean, she's the example of a politician who says, you're just making this up. You're trying to protect something. You're trying to block unions, whatever. The good news is the failure of AB 5. There was a similar law trying to be passed in New Jersey around the same time. And the testimony there, partly looking at California, destroyed it. I wrote my Washington state, one of my senator from my district, because a law was being considered to be talked about. It went nowhere. So fortunately, AB5's implosion saved the rest of us in other states. Thank you. And sorry. Good God.
Well, and this may be the process, right? Is that nothing, it's not a straight line. What did Martin Luther King say? The arc of the world bends towards justice, but it doesn't get there right away.
Right. It's an arc. It's not a straight line. Yeah.
So there's the first two. One, we don't want to do it. Two, it's a bad idea. But three, and this is the one I think applies to the UK Investigatory Powers Act, we can't do it. We actually cannot do it. And he says, Benedict Evans writes, the perennial example here, of course, is encryption. For the last 25 years, engineers have said, we can make it secure or we can let law enforcement have access, but that means the Chinese can get in too. And politicians say, no, make it secure, but not for people we like.
Coincidentally, you may have covered this.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's all we ask.
You may have covered the story in the last few days. Forgive me if you have, but the Apple releasing that extensive reply about CSAM scanning a few days ago, which was almost unheard of them to release a statement like that. I mean, was their reply to an organization that has valid concerns,
the
was
Heat
trying to raise
Initiative
them with Apple.
Yeah.
There's, whenever you bring up CSAM, it's like, what can you be but sympathetic and appalled? So of course, but Apple's response was exactly the right tone, and just days before this UK thing. And you think when the largest company in the world, I think as we speak, says we cannot do this technological thing that we actually said we were going to do, and we dropped our plans because of it, it really sucks a lot of air out of the room.
Steve Gibson talked about it yesterday on Security Now. Wired had the story, and they had both the letter from Sarah Gardner at Heat Initiative and the response from Apple's director of Eric Neuenschwander, director of User Privacy and Child Safety. And the key sentence in that long letter from Apple: we concluded it was not practically possible to implement without ultimately imperiling the security and privacy of our users. And remember, Apple proposed this 2 years ago and dropped it. Well, but get ready,
I read the proposal
because the Heat Initiative is spending $2 million, and they are putting up websites. Here's their Heat Initiative website that is it's just as bad as the Sarah McLachlan "Dogs Are Dying" ad, right? These poor children. And it's aimed at Apple. Child sexual abuse is stored on iCloud. Apple allows it. No.
And Apple pointed out validly in that letter, I believe the Heat Initiative did some conflation, is that CSAM scanning is typically, it doesn't identify new instances of abuse. And we've also seen, Google is also the cautionary example too, by the way, is Google has had these well-publicized incidents in which its CSAM monitoring system, its identification and reporting system, has had some terrible abuses where people have, the father or mother posting a picture of their child accidentally going into their iCloud, Google Cloud Photos.
Yeah, he lost his Google account. We reported on this. He completely lost his
because they were a doctor said, "Send me a picture."
Even though law enforcement cleared him,
right?
Google just was not responsive.
So we've seen the abuses that can happen. You need an appeals process even when it's in use. But the fact is the database, I've forgotten the name of the database that it's
the NCMEC database, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and it is hashes of known CSAM material. But you're right; it's only what they've seen and know.
Only covers what's out there already. It's re-victimization of people, and it's just as bad. But
I think this is disingenuous. I don't know what the Heat Initiative's goal is here. But Apple does, in fact, remove CSAM from iCloud. In fact, they have some case studies of people getting arrested for CSAM on iCloud. Well, how do you think that guy got arrested for CSAM on iCloud? Apple reported him, and Facebook reports him. What Apple was proposing was not that. Apple was proposing something that would scan images on your device before they were uploaded. And Apple's reasonable conclusion was it's a slippery slope. Yeah, we could do this using the NCMEC database for CSAM, but then governments like Saudi Arabia can come to us and say, if you have any, what else is CSAM? Pictures of men kissing. Or China can come to Apple and say, what else is CSAM? Pictures of Winnie the Pooh. And Apple will now be in the position of saying, we have this technology. We have to follow the local laws. And now all of a sudden, a lot of gay men in Saudi Arabia and dissidents in China are going to jail or worse.
Yeah, who was just sentenced to death for
tweeting
that someone like 10 people saw it or something. It just, this is what Apple's fighting against. And but of course, I mean, I'm glad the dialogue's happening because it's very hard to say we should do less to protect the victimization of children, because we're not saying that, and Apple's not saying that. No one's saying that. But it's always phrased that it's the "when did you stop beating your wife" question. It's like that is not how you frame it. It's the what can we do to protect children without violating. In the 0.0000001% of images that relate to the victimization of children, abuse of children.
Here's a question:
how do we protect the other 99.99999% of images and people out there?
Does law enforcement have sufficient tools and laws to get the job done now? Are they really hobbled by these technologies?
I don't see reports by when I read about child pornography rings or CSAM rings being shut down or people investigated, or you read the latest thing about occasionally a technology journalist being discovered with CSAM material. I never see in those stories, and this may be either the way the coverage is or how the organizations want to fight it. They never say, well, if we had more, we could find more people. It's usually, sometimes there's hundreds of police and other law enforcement officers, sometimes around the world, working on these cases diligently with what seems to be a fairly high level of support, sometimes for years. And maybe there's thousands and thousands of cases that are being ignored. But it's this is typically the same thing with sexual assault of adults, is that the issue is often not resources, but it's finding people who care. And that doesn't get changed if you break through encryption or not. It doesn't get changed if you give more money. You have to be able to have people who actually actively want to investigate it.
I was just going to circle back to what you said previously. It just boils down to effort and good old-fashioned police work. We have tools in place, and it takes a certain level of effort to make the most of the tools that you have in place.
Did you see that whole thing where, was it not in Croatia? I read this great story about how some law enforcement folks seeded an encrypted phone system that was actually completely controlled by them.
Oh, yeah. That was us. Yeah.
And it was fantastic. I was like, that's good. I'm like, give those folks involved in that all the kudos. And there's no indication that couldn't be used again. It's not like the come and pick up your free football tickets and everyone gets arrested bit. It's like you never know what's in encryption protocols.
Although I do think that will still work today.
Well, because crooks are dumb. I remember going to the Secret Service years ago. Patrick Norton and I talked to some Secret Service agents in D.C., and they said, sure, it'd be nice if we could force you to give us your password, but usually we don't have to. Crooks will just give it. We just ask them, and they give it to us. So this was a great story. The FBI, this happened a couple of years ago, created a super secret encrypted phone system. And then they used one of their informants, who was a well-known drug dealer, to recommend it, and got all these drugs into. It was called an ANOM, ANOM. They got all these criminal groups to promote it. Oh, you got to use ANOM. It's really good, and of course, law enforcement, the FBI and world law enforcement, including Italian organized crime and outlaw motorcycle gangs and drug trafficking organizations, all were infiltrated all over the world. Operation Trojan Shield, because the crooks go, oh yeah, this is good stuff, and the FBI and Interpol had complete access to it the whole time. It's hysterical. That's great. That's good police work. you know,
I like more of that.
More of that.
I just think it's a people problem, right? As people meet face to face, they, usually people are taken down because they talk in an unencrypted phone call. They
every hacker gets busted because he ends up boasting about it, right?
Yeah, or they spend money in the wrong place. Like, it's just, I think with the vast vast amount of ability to track. I mean, I would love a counterexample, but they'll never tell us. Is like, when did someone not get caught because
we don't know.
Get into something? We don't know.
We don't know.
So they want to tell us, trust us. A great thing
Right.
you want to hear from anybody is trust us. There's a thing we can't tell you any details about that proves the case we're making. I'm like, it's hard to.
I think we're just going back to Benedict Evans. We're just saying excuse number 3. You can't do it without giving a backdoor to bad guys. And that's a bad policy. So I know it would be wonderful if we could catch every one of these horrific predators, if we could stop every terrorist act, if we could make sure that every jaywalker was put in prison and stayed in prison. But
Wait, what?
Hold on. The train went off the rails there.
But we can't do it without compromising our own privacy and safety, and that's important. And that's why the Constitution has the Fourth Amendment and the Fifth Amendment, and it's now England doesn't have our Constitution, but it's I think it's in their common law as well. The principle that there should be some limits on what law enforcement can do. Yes, we want to eliminate crime, but only to the point where we're safer, not to the point where we're less safe. You could just throw us all in jail and there'd be no crime.
Some people say we already are.
We should talk about that Twitter story because it's really pretty awful. Saudi Arabia had agents working at Twitter telling the Saudi Arabian government what dissidents were posting on Twitter. Apparently, there's some evidence Jack Dorsey and the Twitter management knew about these 3 Saudi agents. Eventually, they admitted that, and they got rid of them. They fired them. But after Elon Musk, who's the number 2 investor in Twitter? Owns billions of dollars of Twitter. It's the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund, MBS.
Ooh.
There's a reason Saudi Arabia put more than $1 billion into Twitter. Right? And incidentally, a Saudi citizen's just been convicted of and given the death sentence because of tweets against MBS and the Saudi king. Mohammed Al-Ghamdi, he's 54. He was accused of having 2 accounts on Twitter with a total of 10 followers. Nevertheless, it was enough to the death sentence. All right, I want to take a break. We'll talk about nice, happy things.
That was tough.
Isn't that sad,
hard, bro?
It's sad.
I know it's terrible. It's terrible because it's I think, but it highlights.
I honestly think Elon's completely cooperating with them, and I there's a lot of evidence that Jack Dorsey did as well.
Yeah, well, Elon wants to be in some of the worst markets in the world, either because he wants to sell product in there, or he wants to raise money from them.
Right. Let's take a little break. We have a great show. I'll explain why Jeff's not here in just a little bit. But first, I want to thank Glenn Fleischman. It's always a pleasure to have you on, Glenn. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure to be on.
Glenn.fun. You can read his writing on 6 Colors and other places. What else are you?
Not 6 Colors. I've written for them in the past.
Macworld? Who do you write for?
Macworld. You find me mostly at Macworld.
And also, you've done a number of those little books that tell
Take
you.
Control books. Take Control. Yeah, I'm doing all the We got Apple's coming out with all the revisions, so I'm taking new screen captures and finding all the little weird things in the next release of iOS and Mac OS. I'll be able to do this, and a thumbs up will appear on my Zoom screen, or this, and it'll be like
that's a little weird. I'm not sure I want that. I don't know if I want
turn that off. But
so take control of iOS 17 and take control of Mac OS Sonoma coming soon.
Got all kinds of books in that series. TakeControlBooks.com.
Love those Take Control books. Also, Shift Happens is any day now, right?
Yeah, it's been printed. We spent some very hot weeks, or actually days, spent about 100 hours on press back in July. Had a great time. And it's weird because I forget if I already told this story previously, stop me, but I came back. My wife said, So it's all printed, right? And I was like, oh my God, it is printed. Yeah, it is printed because we were there. You're so attuned to what's going on. Like 300,000 sheets, they're printed. And so
now they have to be bound.
Yeah, I got up at, this is my joke, because I got up at 7 a.m. the other morning to FaceTime with a book, which was our printers in Maine. It's such a huge project. There's a firm in Massachusetts that is doing all the bindings. It's 12,000 volumes. It's too. Something happened.
Your wife just turned on the echo.
That was not
on my side.
Was that you?
Oh, no.
That was Ann. Okay.
Sorry about that.
So it's 12,000 hardcover volumes, 6,000 sets, and
each 1,200 pages.
So there was 600 pages.
If I'm not wrong, that's 144 million pages. No, I don't know what it is.
It's crazy. So the binder said, our printer said, we're going to drive down and look at the first book that comes off the production line from the binder. Do you want to see it? We said, sure. So Marcin's in Chicago. He's in the same time zone me. I get up, get a cup of coffee, turn FaceTime on, and they're rotating a book. Here's what it looks like. Any problem? So this is great. But all the books have been sewn together.
Yay.
They're gluing the covers on.
Sewn signatures. This is not some cheap production.
There's a lot of glue but it's kind of, usually you back a Kickstarter campaign, you're like, even the best ones, there's things that can come up. It's like, we're so close we can taste it, and it's still I'm finding wood to knock. It's on schedule. It's on schedule to ship next
shifthappens.site. Is it too late to order? I think there's
not too late.
Good.
Copies, still some left.
But not many, so don't delay.
No, we had to pick a number. We couldn't print an endless number.
Right.
We're never going back on press again at this writing.
And you said you're starting work on another book.
Oh yeah, I'm. I've got a lot of interest, as you know, in printing history, and I've combined it with an interest in comics history. And so I've got a new project called "How Comics Were Made." At howcomicsweremade.ink, I-N-K.
Oh, clever.
Right?
I didn't know you could get that. Wow.
Maybe it's for tattoos, but I got it for this. So I'm starting, I basically brought the site up to start talking to people about it. I've been interviewing cartoonists. I've got a preliminary cover, hired a designer.
Oh, you're the guy to write this. That's fantastic.
It's going to be fun. So it's all about all of the materials of how did artists' work get from their hands through to the printed page. And I've got so much wonderful material and access to some. I've already interviewed Lynn Johnston, who's the Canadian cartoonist behind For Better, For Worse, that ran for 40 years. Lovely person. She got on the phone with me. I've been talking to comics historian, been emailing with Gary Trudeau. You've
been emailing with Gary Trudeau?
Sure. You say, this is the interesting part. Nobody has ever told this particular weird aspect story. So when I write a cartoonist and I say, can I talk to you about this really strange thing? And here's some photos. They're like, yeah, I'd love to talk about how I colored cartoons or what ink I used or Lynn Johnston, her first husband was a rural dentist. They moved to northern Canada, and he would fly around to do dental work up in the northern territories. And so she's like, we got in the plane and we flew to Buffalo, where most of the comics sections were printed for a number of papers. And she met with the folks who did the color, including this fellow who died young, who was instrumental. I've got his story to tell.
You know why they're glad to talk to you? Because you're not asking them about the process or the comics or the jokes. You're asking about how they physically were made. And
we're talking about inks and pens. And
I bet they love this. That's great.
It's different.
Did you read the article about Bill Waterston in the American Conservative about why he gave up?
I'm not sure. Is it recent or was it back
just came out? Yeah.
Oh no, I don't know about
Waterston has a new book that's coming out. That's why
I knew about that. It's
the American Conservative.
No, I'm gonna have to read that. I'm hoping to get in touch with him because he put so much effort into he's such a great artist, such a great writer, and so intricately involved in the craft. I want to talk to him about the craft, like how he saw his work go to fruition. The book is really about that realization of vision, but I take my weird materials like flongs and printing plates and whatever. Those tell a beautiful story that's we think about that. The cartoonists are working at a board you get a newspaper, there's so many people and processes involved, and then it's all changed. The newer cartoonists, there's a woman, for instance, who does Breaking Cat News, fun strip, and she just works in watercolor, and they do color separations. But 20 years ago, people were still marking numbers in every color, and somebody in a studio at the engravers was using Photoshop to fill in the colors, like paint by number, because that's what had been done in the metal days. And it was only really between 1990 and like 2000-ish that they transitioned out of that kind of paint by numbers thing in the digital era to, this normal, like just you scan it and you color separate it. Anyway, it's just, I keep finding wonderful material and wonderful people, and I'm just so excited. So the book's not going to go to Kickstarter until February, but I kind of unleashed what I've got now to start getting people to sign up to announcement list, and then to just put the word out.
Already, Joe Esposito has made a sticker to all flongs all the time.
Yes, so it'll be fun, and it's this is my love of technology too. It doesn't matter if the technology is 1895 or 2099.
Yeah. Aunt Pruitt, also great to have you. Thank you once again for allowing me to throw you out of the studio so I don't get sick. But I'm sure you're fine. I was just being paranoid. But we're always want to have you.
You're not being paranoid. You're being cautious.
Yeah.
You want to go see your mother.
It's because of my mom. If it were just me, I'd say, breathe on me, kiss me, lick me. I don't care. But I don't want to get my mom sick. She's 90.
Not getting that close.
No. What happens at the Twit Christmas party stays at the Twit Christmas party.
Yeah,
right?
Now you get it.
Our show today brought to you by, I love it, Fast Mail. Look, I've said this so many times over the last 15 years. If email is important to you as an individual, or even more important to you as a business, why are you using free email where you are not the customer, you are the product? You need Fast Mail. I switched to Fast Mail more than 10 years ago, and I am not looking back. I love it. Make email work for you, not on you, with Fast Mail. No, because you're paying them, admittedly, it's not free, as little as $3 a month. It's not expensive either. But because of that, you're the customer. They have real support people who will really help you. They have great service, great products, and no ads, no tracking, just email the way you need it. And one of the things I love about Fastmail, they make it very easy to use your own domain name at Fastmail. In fact, I use Fastmail for the DNS for almost all of my domain names, more than a dozen. That way I can receive email at those domain names. I'll give you, one of them is laporte.email. Well, I can make it be anything at laporte.email. So every time I sign up for something new, it's Verizon at laporte.email or Twitter at laporte.email. That way, each of them has a unique address. And actually, I don't use laporte.email. So bad guys don't try to hack me. And that's another advantage. If you're using Bitwarden, our sponsor, or 1Password, you can use Fastmail to generate unique email addresses every single site. Every time you create a new password, you create a new email address. That is a really nice feature. I can go on and on. I probably will. You can use Fastmail with any email client, whatever client you're using. Just install it and run Fastmail. It almost always will auto configure. If not, Fastmail's got all the information you need to make it work with Outlook or Thunderbird, Apple Mail, whatever you use. I use a lot of weird email clients. They all work great with Fastmail because Fastmail's a real IMAP. In fact, they use the open source Cyrus server and contribute back to it. They are leaders in email technology. They've been doing this for a long time. You can also use their web version. I know a lot of you, like if you're Gmail users, you like having your browser be your email client. Fastmail has a much better, I think, web-based version. All sorts of nice features. Colors, custom swipes, night mode, iOS and Android too. In fact, that's the app I use on iOS for my email is Fastmail. It's great. The quick settings means it's easy to choose a new theme, to switch between light and dark mode, change my text size, all without leaving the email screen. Quick settings is fantastic. The masked email addresses, You can auto-save contacts. I do that. In fact, the spam filtering on Fastmail is the best I've ever used. And because you can use Civ, the Civ program, to customize it, it is the most powerful I've ever used. For instance, if I respond to somebody's email, they're automatically added to my contact list. And I have a rule that if somebody's sending me an email and they're in my contact list, they go to a special important folder because I know this person. It's a great way to not lose any email in the spam filters to keep track of everybody. I use filtering like crazy. You can pop images of your senders from external services. They use Gravatar and others. That's fantastic. Set default reminders for events. Oh, did I mention? I also use Fastmail for calendars, as well as contacts, as well as email. In fact, I replaced Google with all three. It syncs with every device. It's a fantastic CalDAV and CardDAV server. For over 20 years, Fastmail's been a leader in email and email privacy because you're the customer, not the product. You got to get Fastmail. I can go on and on. In fact, I often do. It's very easy to move over. Just reclaim your privacy, boost your productivity with Fastmail. You can try it now free for 30 days at fastmail.com/twit. Fastmail, fastmail.com/twit. I've been recommending them for more than a decade. I'm glad I finally got them to sponsor our show. Thank you, Fastmail. I appreciate it. Fastmail.com/twit. You use Fastmail too, Ant? I didn't know that.
Yeah, the pricing, I think I paid like $5 a month.
Yeah, it's three. I think there's three. I can't remember what it is.
I've been using them since most of the last, like for the last decade at least, and for most of the last 20 years.
Yeah.
I've a long time.
Yeah, people in the know.
Happy to pay them.
Yeah, know that you've got to pay for email. You can't use the free emails at Hotmail or Outlook or .com or Gmail because you're just a product to them. You're not the customer. Fastmail really is good. Every real person like you, smart geeks like you guys that I talk to says, "Oh yeah, Fastmail. Of course, everybody knows Fastmail."
Love it. They even help you set up this is unsolicited. They help you set up your mail anti-spam records. They have a really neat little system. Somebody emailed me and said, "Oh, I'm a bug bounty person, and I found your records aren't set up right, and for this domain you have, and you should send me some money." And I they weren't trying to shake me down. And I went to Fastmail. I was like, "Nope, it all checks out. It's all good." I don't know what the person's clearly created some kind of automated engine to see if anyone
exactly.
Will pay
I get that. I get that email all the time. Yeah, these are so great. I can let's pick. I don't know. I'll use. I don't want to give away my super secret. Here we go. Here's my. Here's one of the many domains I have registered there. leolaporte.com. It says your domain is correctly set up to send and receive email, but more importantly, it's set up to support all the email security features like DKIM and SPF.
SPF. Yeah.
These are really fantastic.
Email is the worst thing on the internet. The fact that it still works, that you can still email. Over at a company I do freelance work for that I will not be named, they somehow got blacklisted by
that's
by
bad.
Gmail
if you get in one of those black holes, that's terrible.
For no good reason, and there's nobody you can talk to. And it was an entire corporation, of which the group I was working for was a very small part, and they were wrestling with it for, I think it just finally broke the blockade. But like the fact that I remember writing in the 90s, I was writing articles about email is going to become balkanized and servers will not accept email from other servers, and it'll wind up being all these fiefdoms of email. And
Gmail is among the worst of those. Gmail rejects email, and I understand why. There's a huge amount of spam going through it, but it doesn't matter how many times. If you're a Gmail user, I could email Ant every day for the last 15 years, and then he'll send a message to go into spam for some reason. You're like, why? Yeah. That's the opposite of intelligence. Yeah. What's going on? Yeah. I'm sorry for emailing you every day for the last 15 years. That's a whole other story.
Oh, you have? Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So let's talk about Jeff, because people are wondering, where's Jeff Jarvis? Actually, I don't know where he is today. I think he was did he say, is he traveling? I can't remember.
I can't remember where he said he was traveling, but it was
undisclosed.
It's probably a coincidence, but today on Medium, he's actually a story today. He posted, moving on, I'm leaving CUNY's Newmark Graduate School of Journalism at the end of this term. Can you play the Craig Newmark chorus?
Gotta play it. Gotta have it.
One last time. Oh, I don't know. Benito doesn't have it stacked. I don't know how Craig's going to get his plugs, but we'll find a way. Technically, he says, I'm retiring, though if you know me, I know I will never retire. I'm looking at some things to do next, one of which, of course, is host our AI show with Jason Howell. Yeah, we're doing it right now in the club, and we're going to it'll emerge at some point. He has a great Medium piece, though, about his 18 years at CUNY, which is really remarkable. I mean, that's a long time, and a lot of students who got Jeff as a journalism professor, and it's pretty impressive. He did a lot of great work there. And so I know a little bit about what Jeff's going to be doing, but I guess I'm sworn to secrecy. Stay tuned. And I think he will be back next week, and so will Kathy Gellis, our favorite Supreme Court admitted lawyer, who will, I'm sure, have some stuff to talk about in the new October court docket is coming up. Speaking of court, in Australia, they've decided not to force adult websites to do age verification. This is something many states in the U.S. have started to do. Yeah. In fact, a judge just knocked down one of the states. Was it Texas?
Is it Texas?
Yeah. Judge strikes down porn age verification law in Texas, saying it's a violation of the First Amendment. It's not even, I'm not even particularly worried about that. It's just a ridiculous idea from a privacy point of view. Yeah. What, I have to give you my government ID so I can watch porn? Oh, what could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, to a private company, right? You don't give it to the government. A, you don't want to give it to the government. B, you want to give it to a porn company? Because they're very good at security, clearly.
Yeah.
What was the breach? Wasn't there some huge... all
the time. And actually, I kind of respect Pornhub, which is the biggest, because they have, in states where this is a requirement, and there are many of them now, I can't remember, almost a dozen, they just say, okay, fine, we're going to turn the service off if you're in... and you're in whatever. I don't want to say the state if it's not the right state, but Louisiana, for instance, I think that's a good thing. Just say, well, fine. If you're going to make us do that, we're just not going to be there.
You can just tie it into TSA pre, right? You just have it be a.
Oh, jeez.
If you can board without going through this normal security, you can.
Anyway, just a terrible, terrible idea in the first place. In a federal judge in Texas, David Ezra, has said it violates First Amendment free speech rights and it's too vague. It's constitutionally problematic because it deters adult access to, by the way, this is important, legally explicit material, far beyond the interest of protecting minors. There's another example where they pass these laws and the intent is maybe good, but the actual impact of it is not so good. The means do not justify the end, or the end does not justify the means. Hey, are you worried about UFOs? Who isn't?
Is this an ad?
Yeah, this should be an ad. The United States Department of Defense has launched a UFO site. Well, they call it the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO. But if you go to aaro.mil, you'll see... We're having trouble finding that site. Yeah, maybe I have to type the dub. It's an unidentified anomaly.
Isn't that a Guys and Dolls song? The All Domain
Anomaly Resolution Office
website.
So type the dub. They haven't figured out how to do that yet, I guess.
Bless their heart.
Bless their heart. Bless their heart. The best part is this UAP reporting trends.
Fascinating.
Isn't it? I don't think it really is revealing in any sense. Like, we don't know more about... Because, first of all, this doesn't mean aliens.
They just reopened Project Blue Book.
It just means stuff we don't know what the hell it was.
Yeah. So they'll accept reports dating back to 1945. So that's interesting.
Typically reported characteristics of unidentified aerial phenomenon, they're round. That's where it says it. Morphology, round. Size, 1 to 4 meters. Color, white, silver, or translucent. They tend to hover around 20,000 feet. But
I thought they would be green, though, right?
No, that's the men inside.
Oh, okay.
It's a silver, round silver. Velocity, stationary to twice the speed of sound, Mach 2. Propulsion, no thermal exhaust detected. This is, I don't know what they even mean, typically reported UAP characteristics. Then they talk about, round here, orb, round or sphere, 47%. Vector, tic-tac, 1% are tic-tac shaped. Polygon, square, rectangle, triangle, all kinds of shapes and sizes.
Fascinating.
Here's the altitudes.
So you said they're taking reports retroactively back to like 1945.
Well, the government has these in a file cabinet somewhere, right?
Yeah, it says we'll accept reports from current or former U.S. government employees, service members, contractors with direct knowledge of U.S. government programs or activities related to UAP dating back to 1945. So they're saying if we weren't told before, you could tell us now, although it's an end that the government can receive classified information from people. So that means like if you had classified information, we're told not to talk about it, you're apparently allowed to report it. If I'm not a lawyer, just what I'm reading in the footnote.
This is interesting. This is the heat map of where these reports seem to be all kind of, there's almost like at the same latitude. Southeast United States, the hot spot right there. That looks like, I don't know, maybe Georgia. That's down there just below South Kakalaki.
Georgia and Kakalaki, baby.
Are they sure they're not spheroids, brown spheroids about 10 inches long? They just got hurled too high in the air.
Hey. Southern California, also hot spot. SoCal. For some reason, the Middle East,
possible.
The Fertile Crescent seems to be a hot spot.
Beijing.
And then China, Beijing. That's weird. That's really interesting.
You don't say.
You don't say. UAP, if you want to know more, www.aaro.mil. And you can submit right there on the page. There's a button for you. Make you feel better.
Pretty good.
Education resources.
This website be up because they're going to get flooded with a lot of reports and information, I'm sure.
Look at, there's the this is backed by the No Fear Act. No retaliation.
Remember the story 2 years ago, the jetpack guy who was terrorizing planes around LAX?
Did they ever figure that out?
Yeah, it was a life-size inflatable Jack Skellington. That was it was a balloon. It just kept flying around in the
Nightmare Before Christmas. Jack Skellington
from Tim Burton's A Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yes, sir. That would be yes.
Yes.
Wait a minute. It was
pretty sure
it was a Jack Skellington balloon.
Yep, it was like an inflatable single. It says this story from NBC. It could have been a single balloon that broke loose from a Halloween display, drifted into the sky.
Yeah, because this was all over LA. We kept seeing these reports from airplanes and others. There was a guy flying around my plane looking at me. Months of investigation. The I-team has uncovered images that may have cracked the case. Good evening. I'm Chuck Henry. So there's the image. Yeah, it does look like a Jack Skellington.
Isn't that hilarious?
Yeah.
I mean, there's certain shapes that are more aerodynamic, and they didn't design it to fly, but it's possible. It just had the right lift that it did it.
And it reached equilibrium.
Yeah, it just kept drifting up and heating up, the helium heating up and cooling down.
Wow. I remember talking about this
stuff up, man.
Yeah.
When I was working on LA radio, we would, there's been another sighting. Pilot reports. In fact, I think we had audio, didn't we? Pilot reports yet another jetpack-like mystery object flying near LAX.
I mean, it's got to be terrifying as a pilot because you're like, what the heck? And like, why is someone doing that?
Yeah.
And,
3 sightings by pilots lined up to land at LAX. But now once you see the picture,
it was just all pranks.
This isn't. I think this is not. I think it's not a prank. It just escaped, right?
No, but this wasn't right.
Errant
Yeah,
balloon.
this was
You
just
see it flying around.
errant.
That's what I assume. So I assume all the anomalous readings they're not pranks, but I mean, they're, I would love, I believe there is extraterrestrial life. I don't think we're the only life in the universe. I don't think anyone's come to visit. I don't think they're flying weird missions around. I don't think physics allows it. So there has to be, it's more likely there's another explanation that's just irritating. Like the Chinese have developed some really great thin material that
Yeah.
has really bizarre reflective properties.
Well,
and
I think
I
it's
got a hunch
also
they're way smarter and more intelligent than we are, and they're just staring at us on whatever radar technology they have, and like
they got the big
I want no
screens,
part
big
of those
round
idiots.
view screen. Let's see what's going on Earth. Yeah. Okay. Can I
time
just
travel?
There may be life elsewhere in the universe, but it's a long effing way away. It ain't.
Yeah.
They're not coming here any more than we're going there.
Exactly.
Here's the thing that would be incredibly cool is if it turned out that there were alien life forms that were intelligent or were able to build ships and come here, what they would teach us about physics if they decided to, or we turned out it was true, it would be amazing. We'd overturn practically everything that's understood.
Yeah.
But I just think it's Occam's razor. What's the likelihood of that happening? It's very, very low.
And as somebody pointed
balloons
out, imagine a civilization that has this technological sophistication to create a spaceship that can cross the vast regions of space, and it flies here successfully, and then, whoops, crashes. What is the likely?
We can't get back.
What is the likelihood? Oh man, we got so close, and then crashed. No, I don't think so. And maybe here's another way that we can help people get over this belief. Caltech, you've heard of them. Good school. I think 42 Nobel laureates teach there. It's a small school. It's hard to get into. I think only a few percentage points of 2,400 students, 40% of them undergraduates, 3% admission rates. Very hard to get into. One of the reasons is Caltech requires calculus. You also have to have a certain level of physics and chemistry before you can get in as an admission to get into as a freshman. And unfortunately, in this modern age, there are many things high schools are no longer teaching, among them calculus, physics, and chemistry.
Oh, man, it's a bummer.
Caltech was absolutely firm. If you don't have these, you can't get in. More than 1/3 of the nation's high schools do not offer calculus. Did you take calculus, Ant? Have you ever taken calculus?
I did.
Yeah.
Totally useless, but I took it.
But if you were, you know what? If you had ended up as a rocket scientist, you would have used it.
Right. That's the thing. I am grateful that my generation had the opportunity to even consider that, because, that opens up other doors.
I think there's another reason to
career-wise.
teach a higher level math, because it also teaches you how to think. So you may say, I'm never
freaking thinking,
Yeah.
man.
I'm never going to use calculus, but the process of learning it was what a skill you learned,
Yeah. I said it about algebra, and I mean, now granted, geometry is
That's
a little bit more
pretty
used
useful.
in the real world.
Yeah,
but
coders need
all
that.
of that stuff. It teaches you how to think, and the more I talk to a lot of the teenagers that I've come across, whether it's here or back in Carolina, man, a lot of kids, they just don't think things through, and it's right there in front of them, and it makes me wonder, well, what's going on in the classroom? And then I see stuff like this. Oh yeah, that's why.
Glenn, did you study higher level math, science?
I went through trig, and then I had other courses I wanted to take senior year. So I never took calculus. Went to college, was like, I'll take calculus now. The only class I've ever had to withdraw from. I could not.
It's hard.
Could not do
It's
it.
friggin' hard.
Super hard.
Freshman year is a bad time. Freshman year at like 9 in the morning is a bad time to.
Yeah, I did that
try to
too.
do
I
calc.
took ancient Greek and I dropped that in the first 6 weeks. I was like, no.
Oh my God. The
Latin was easy.
Yeah. It's no.
What the man of the world.
I had learned
Thought I
in the
could,
summer before going to college.
yeah.
I learned alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda, mu, nu, xi, omicron, pi, rho, sigma, tau, omega. I learned the alphabet. I thought, I'm going to be so ready. I'm going there. And they move a mile a minute. It's not anthropos and thropu. You go. And I said, no, this is not for me. I ended up canceling most of my classes, to be honest, to be perfectly. Anyway, good news. Caltech, in the name of equity, is changing their requirements. A groundbreaking step. They announced Thursday they're going to drop the admission requirements for calculus, physics, and chemistry for students. Now, you have to say, first of all, show that your high school didn't offer it. And you have to take an equivalent, which will include Khan Academy.
Okay.
I
with
love
plus
this.
a test.
Okay.
Yeah, plus
Yeah.
you have to take a certification test, but it's fantastic. I love that they listened and Because there are, I mean, the fact, it's one thing that arts usually get cut first, right? But now they're cutting to the bone. So many schools never offered it or cutting these higher level courses that kids want to take. And unless they're in an area with, my district in Seattle, they've got the courses are being offered, thankfully, at all the high schools, but also there's access to a rich community college program here. So if a course isn't offered, the kids can do it either for credit or to get an advanced, to accelerate a course requirement, all of this. And so I got to imagine there's the places, they must be so tapped out where there's just no resource for these kids at all. This is fantastic.
It tends to be, interestingly, a high proportion of schools with Black and Latino students.
Yeah.
Only 38% of the 26,300 public high schools with high proportions of Black and Latino students offered calculus in 2015, 2016. In suburban schools, they do offer it. Similar problems with chemistry and physics.
Yeah, and that's why school choice has been such a hot topic here in the state of California, too.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's great because I think Khan Academy and other online schools, which really are open to all. If you have I guess you have to have internet access, but you can go to the library and do it. I think is huge. I think it's huge. This is I love the idea of people can still being able to have an opportunity, even though sometimes they're facing limitations beyond their control. Yep. All right, little break here. More to come. Wonderful panel. We miss you, Jeff. I hope you come back soon.
Indeed.
I don't know. I think let me just check. I
believe he's here next week.
He's here next week.
You're not there. Well,
I will be. I'll be coming to you from my mom's basement, as all good podcasters should.
Is Jeff becoming a roaming Professor Mendicant? Is he going to roam the streets and dispense knowledge for alms?
Alms for the journalism professor.
I got to say, it seems like a likely progression for him. I can't.
He looks kind of monk-like. I can see him wrapped.
He's ready for it.
Rags.
Yes.
I'll be talking about Gutenberg.
Imagine him out there. People will probably think he's Odin.
He needs a staff.
I was surprised when I met him in person how tall he is. He's got a
he's tall
presence.
He is 6.
Uh-oh, my camera died.
That's all right because you are
going to a break.
You are now going to break, and the rainbow colors of Aunt Pruitt. Our show today brought to you by Melissa, the data quality experts. For 38 years, Melissa has helped companies harness the value of their customer data to drive insight, maintain data quality, to support global intelligence. If you're in a business and you have a list, whether it's suppliers, customers, you probably know that data goes bad faster than you'd want. All data goes bad, up to 25% of it per year. And it's so important to have clean, verified data. It helps customers get a smooth, error-free purchase experience. It helps you with your mailings and your outreach. Bad data, that's just bad business. And in fact, costs an average of $9 million each year. Melissa is flexible. It fits into any business model. It'll verify addresses for more than 240 countries. That way only valid billing and shipping addresses enter your system. And Melissa's we talk a lot about their USPS capabilities, but they have international address validation too, which clears, cleans, and corrects street addresses everywhere in the world, in every language: Chinese, Japanese, Cyrillic. Melissa's global address verification works with it all. And addresses automatically transliterate from one system to another, so there's no loss of data. Focus your spending where it matters the most. Melissa offers free trials. In fact, I'll tell you how to do that in a second. Sample codes, flexible pricing with a guarantee for ROI, and unlimited technical support to customers all over the world. There's one way you can try Melissa right now with their free Melissa Lookups app. It's on Google Play or on the Apple iOS store. No sign-up required. You can use it to validate an address and a personal identity in the U.S. or Canada. Try it on your own information. See how well it works. You could check global phone numbers to find caller, even carrier, and geographic information. You could check global IP address information and lots more. Once you're signed up with Melissa, it's easy to integrate their other services. For instance, identity verification. That's becoming more and more important for companies to increase compliance and reduce fraud, improve the experience, the onboarding experience. Melissa Enrich, another tool, they have many, which will help you gain insight into who and where your customers are. Melissa specializes in global intelligence solutions, and you can trust your data safe with Melissa. They undergo independent third-party security audits on a regular basis. They're SOC 2 compliant, HIPAA compliant, GDPR compliant. Your data is in the best hands. On-prem, through an API, a secure FTP server, however you want it. That's how Melissa can give it to you. They have SaaS solutions as well. Make sure your customer contact data is up to date. Get started today with 1,000 records cleaned for free. Melissa.com/twit. MELISSA. Melissa.com/twit. We thank them so much for their support of This Week in Google. You support us too if you use that address, Melissa.com/twit. Aw, NFT hype is fading. Aw. I hope you didn't get stuck with a Bored Ape.
I got a folder full of JPEGs. What am I going to do with them? They're worth absolutely nothing.
The story from Bloomberg, monthly trading volume for NFTs plummeted between January of 2022 and July of this year, 81%. NFT sales figures monthly have dropped 61%. Floor prices for blue chip NFTs like the Bored Ape Yacht Club and CryptoPunks at more than 2-year lows. Lorenzo Melendez, president of Pudgy Penguins, says, when you look at the charts, everything's down.
Penguins is practically chickens.
It's chickens. You're seeing just a lot of capitulation. We don't know what to do or where to go. So just pat yourself on the back if you didn't buy an NFT.
Oh, my God.
Now, Ant, I know you did NFTs, but I think that is a little bit different. You did not sell them.
It is totally different.
It wasn't about a get-rich-quick scheme. It was about supporting artists, right?
Support artists, allow artists to continue to earn money one way or another for their creations. It wasn't about collector's items. It wasn't about investments and none of that. It was just, if an artist has an NFT out there and you want to support that artist, buy it. If an artist had a print out there, antpruitt.com/prints, and you wanted to support that artist, buy the print. It's the same daggum thing in my eyes. It wasn't about investments and stuff.
Yeah. And that was really where the problem lay, was people, it was like Beanie Babies who said, these are going to be, this digital version of a bored monkey is going to be worth millions down the road. Investors aren't the only ones, according to Bloomberg, suffering. NFT marketplace Recur, which is backed by billionaire Steve Cohen and is known for its Hello Kitty NFT. Who could forget that? Said it's winding down due to, quote, unforeseen challenges and shifts in the business landscape. Mark Cuban-backed NFT social media platform Nifty's, get it? NFT? Nifty's.
Oh, gosh.
They had done Looney Tunes themed NFTs, also closing down, citing investment opportunities that, quote, didn't pan out. Oh, really? I'm sorry. I'm suffering a little schadenfreude here. I told you. Surviving platforms and projects aren't faring well either. Leading NFT marketplace Blur has seen its sales volume measured in Ether drop 96% between a late June peak and early August. OpenSea decided to make royalties paid on secondary sales optional. Now that's a big deal because one of the promises here was you buy it and then, or you make it rather, and then you sell it, and then when it gets sold on again and again, you get royalties each time.
Right.
Now they're saying, well, never mind.
I love the idea of being able to sell like a digital original that would have something as an artist, as you say, to support artists and to give artists it's a digital transition, particularly as shipping has become super expensive outside the U.S. It's meant that artists used to have an international, market. They lost that in the last few years. I mean, shipping is so insane. So I thought at one point I was like, well, maybe NFTs, like Ant said, maybe NFTs will be another way to support artists, give them a future revenue stream, let them own their work, even if the underlying technology seemed to me ridiculous. Maybe it was a way to to own a digital, original or digital print, and just the whole thing. The networks are being shut down. You can't even access your stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
if you bought things.
OpenSea was pretty much the place everybody ended up going through. If OpenSea delisted you,
yeah, you were done.
You're dead.
Yeah.
You can still go to Web3 is going just great and watch. I mean, the one place there's a lot of action with NFTs is all the rug pulls and other problems. You could just keep going to Web3.
Yeah.
The Molly White site is, boy, I thought, every time I think crypto, NFTs or blockchain or anything is ebbing, I just look at my feed for that site. I'm like, man, every day there's some millions or tens of millions of dollars seem to get stolen, some kind of crack or hack. So there's still apparently plenty of money out there to steal.
It's constant.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So I do think there might be some value in the long run. NFTs might not go away forever because it's a good way to prove provenance.
Digital ticketing, right? That has to be digital ticketing.
Or digital tickets. You're right.
Yeah.
Digital tickets are great. I mean, the always question is, do you need a blockchain when you could have a serial number? Or it's the decentralization aspect, and what I think,
and that's what ends up costing because of gas fees with Ethereum and other places.
But it's also the idea is that you don't hold the proof that a thing is unique; somebody else does.
Right.
A blockchain provides uniqueness, but not that Ethereum has gone anywhere, but all the projects built on top of these other efforts, they don't seem to have lasting power. So what happens if you needed technology built on top of it and it didn't prove to be worthwhile enough? I think it's easier just to sell stuff that's serialized and one organization is responsible for each serialization of it. I don't know.
Well, speaking of crypto,
I get everybody wanting to be decentralized from the fiat stuff. I get that, but
then it turned out
we're there yet.
Turned out to all be centralized. Turned out that there's a lot of choke points because of the exchanges, which is what folks had worried would happen, and then it happened. But I just keep I'm amazed. I think there's still hundreds of billions not hundreds of billions, must be hundreds of billions of dollars. This still, right? There's just a lot of money still.
But that's part of the
floating
problem.
Around in potential value.
Is people are holding this Bored Ape, hoping they're going to make money on it, and they're underwater. They spent $100,000 on it. It's worth 20 now. So it's not gone away, but they're underwater.
I was done with it when I saw that stuff like Bored Ape was worth gazillions of dollars, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, this is crap, and yeah, that can sound like sour grapes coming from a creator, but at the same time, like, really, a sketch of an ape with a cigarette in its mouth. It's cool. It's nicely put together or what have you, but is it really worth millions of dollars?
It's never about the actual work, Ant.
It's speculation.
It's never about the actual work.
It's about I'm going to make money on it, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what it is. It's a pixelated picture of a monkey or a punk.
Oh, the pixelated
an owl.
stuff. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's just not high quality, but it doesn't. Is that what you're saying, Benito? That it's really about?
Yeah, it's not about the work.
It's about what you're going to make on it,
or like who made the work. Even like it could be the person who made it.
Well, that's the irony of this: the artist who made the Bored Apes or the CryptoPunks is just some anonymous artist who got paid a flat fee. That's not who's making the money on it. It's Yuga Labs that's making the money on it.
Oh gosh,
it's the modern.
It's Beanie Babies, right? It's Beanie Babies. Yeah. People bought
Beanie Babies at least were fun.
You
my
can play with a Beanie Baby.
My kids loved the Beanie Babies, but a lot of people bought them and kept them in the box sealed.
Sure did.
Because it was an investment. They weren't buying it because it was a fun toy. They were buying it because they were going to make money on it. Speculation, bad idea. Make money the old-fashioned way at the casino.
There you go, craps table.
using a printing press.
Using a printing press. I bet you flongs would come in handy there.
I got
Do you have $100 flong in your basement?
I've got no federal flong.
No federal flong.
No crimes committed.
Okay. No. I don't want to. Speaking of crypto, it turns this story's been slow brewing for a long time. LastPass, longtime sponsor here at Twit, no longer, but a longtime sponsor. Many months after they stopped their sponsorship, we learned that they had been hacked. And, it was slowly dribbled out that first, somebody's compromised our dev system. Don't worry, your passwords are safe. And then a few months later, turned out when they got into the dev system, they got into the S3 backups of the vaults. They downloaded all the vaults. So now we've been waiting for the other shoe to drop because those vaults were encrypted. Some of them better than others. We've learned, and Steve's talked about this on security now, that some of those vaults were, protected by a single iteration of the key derivative function, which is not super secure, unless you had a really good password. But as you know, most people don't have super good passwords.
Most people don't.
Yeah. So we've been waiting, and I've always said, well, we'll know if this is a problem if we start seeing hacks.
Yep.
They say now, this is from Krebs on Security, Brian Krebs reporting, we're seeing hacks. Taylor Monahan, lead product manager of MetaMask, which is a cryptocurrency wallet for Ethereum, he and other researchers have identified what they say is a reliable set of clues connecting recent cryptocurrency thefts. More than 150 people robbed of collectively more than 35 million worth of crypto. What do they all have in common? They use LastPass. Taylor says, pronoun is she. Monahan says virtually all the victims she'd assisted were longtime cryptocurrency investors, which meant they were security-minded and sophisticated. Importantly, none appeared to have suffered the sort of attacks that typically preface a high-dollar crypto heist, such as the compromise of one's email and or mobile phone accounts. This is Brian Krebs writing. Monahan wrote, the victim, this is on her Twitter, the victim profile remains the most striking thing. They're truly all are reasonably secure. They're also deeply integrated into this ecosystem. Employees of reputable crypto orgs, VCs, people who build DeFi protocols, deploy contracts, run full nodes, and have ENS names. I mean, these are, sophisticated people. Yeah. The diversity of key types drained is remarkable. The 12 and 24 word seeds generated via all types of hardware and software wallets, Ethereum presale wallet JSONs, wallet.dats, that's what I've got, private keys generated via Mu and others. However, it looks like nearly every victim had used LastPass to store their seed phrase, which is the private key needed to unlock their cryptocurrency investments. Now, in fact, I have a wallet and I forgot the password. And the reason I don't know how to get into my wallet is I did not put it in LastPass.
Oh, no.
So was I the idiot or?
It's 4-1 for Leo.
I love Brian Krebs, and I've known him for, over 20 years. And I started reading this and I was like, maybe this is a reach. Gosh, I don't know. But I'm like, that's unlikely. And boy, the people he's quoting are great. And I was like, but this doesn't. And I got to the part which I'd forgotten, which was LastPass never upgraded their sort of security mixing over time. So if you.
The PBKDF2 did not have sufficient.
Short password and not enough iterations, enough iterations of that routine, then they didn't make you change it. This is a problem. This has been a problem in some password breaches. Seems to have abated. Is that sites used to use simple SHA-1 hashing, which is now considered an outdated algorithm. But it's also, you could have a short password, have it just SHA-1 and hashed, and it was easy for crackers to make up what are called rainbow tables. I'm sure you and Steve talk about this, but it was easy to have pre-computed tables to crack common passwords. But then sites got smarter. They started using longer hashes. They started forcing security updates. They notify people. They push out password requirement update notices. They started using salting, which meant that every password, even when hashed, was different. Like all these great things, but LastPass, for some reason, never said, hey, you haven't changed this since whatever, it is no longer secure, you need to do something, it would have been trivial because they don't know your password, but they do know your, they do know when you last made a change. They have some metadata about it and it's disclosed. 1Password, as I recall, because I remember a report came out several years ago that looked into the iteration and the algorithms being used, and 1Password wasn't perfect, but it was kind of in the top of the heap. LastPass wasn't bad, but 1Password since then dramatically increased, as did LastPass security. And so I think even if my LastPass storage vault from 15 years ago were uncovered, I don't think it's crackable today. But a LastPass one from several years ago without being updated is ostensibly has the chance to be.
Yeah, with Steve reported on this some months ago that looking at a lot of these vaults, people would look at, there were tools you could use to analyze your vault. Many of, in the early days, LastPass used PBKDF2 with one iteration.
Say that 5 times fast.
Which is very weak. Which is very weak. That's the key derivative function, which hashes. So you have a password, you can read it, monkey123, and then you run it through the PBKDF2. It's now hashed. The more times you run it through, the more difficult it is to brute force. And because processors have gotten faster and faster, the recommended number of iterations from OS and others is been getting higher and higher. In the early days, like 5-6 years ago, it was one iteration, and it turns out people who had maybe upgraded to more. I eventually, with LastPass, went to 2 million iterations, which was the max.
Sure, why not? Yeah.
Well, why not? Because it does slow it down, but on a modern machine, it doesn't slow it down appreciably.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah. I'm sorry. I remember when 1Password, they increased one of their iterations, and I was like, "Oh man, it's taking a good 2 seconds to unlock."
Yeah, exactly.
And then I upgraded my machine. It's like that. But yeah, it's a serious outdated password security that's not being forced to update is serious.
For many older LastPass users, the initial default setting for iterations was anywhere from 1 to 500. By 2013, 10 years ago, 5,000 became the default. In 2018, 100,100 iterations. It's currently 600,000. Again, you could go to 2 million. There are other key derivative functions, though. In fact, our sponsor Bitwarden supports something called Argon 2, which is memory hard and not nearly so brute forceable. Probably not brute forceable, in fact, although I'd never say never. So this was the supposition was, all right, somebody, we don't know who, we were thinking maybe it's a nation state, but somebody has this vault. Maybe many people have the vault. Maybe they've sold it off.
Right.
What the next thing they do is start brute forcing it, and they're going to get the low hanging fruit, which is going to be some elderly guy in Muncie whose password is monkey123, and it was one iteration, but there's nothing they're getting out of that, right? They got his New York Times account, so they keep going, and I was expecting this would be a process that would happen slowly over time. And in fact, that's what it looks like. Perhaps they've been working on these crypto password vaults where there really is money for a long time, but it's just taken them that long to brute force it. Here we are almost a year later. It does look like now, and $35 million, it looks like, again, there's no conclusive proof, but somebody is getting into these LastPass vaults. And they're going where the money is. They're going after people whose money, that's why we're only now hearing about it, I think. So
I'm probably one of the 0.5% of folks that are still using LastPass, and I feel fine about still using LastPass.
I think it's fine to use it now.
Down,
yeah.
I thought about it and said, you know what? Their noses and faces in the mud right now, and they're quite embarrassed. I've got a hunch they're going to get their crap together, go about this the right way, and really tighten things up. Plus, I'm also going to be diligent about managing the passwords that are out there right now. At the time of knowing the news when it broke, I need to go change my passwords, regardless of what happened. I think
that's
LastPass.
Probably. There are tools you can go and look at your passwords if you still have your LastPass vault and see how many iterations were used. There will be a variation depending on when you created those passwords. Some people's older passwords are one PBKDF2 iteration. So that's worth looking at. Those are the low-hanging fruit. Those I would change immediately. I think if you had a password vault at LastPass during the time of this breach, it'd probably be prudent to assume that at some point your passwords might be cracked, and you should probably change all of those, especially the ones for your Bitcoin.
I spent a weekend going through that list of that vault and changing it. It stunk going to,
it's no fun.
Change passwords for everything.
Yeah.
But I feel better now that it's done because it's better protection.
Krebs has a really good article. He quotes Vladimir Palant, who is the developer behind AdBlock Plus and is a security researcher. It's funny, Palant explains all of this iteration stuff, and then he points out that the reason this has gotten easier to crack is these GPUs, which are really fast. They can do 4 million guesses a second, even if you have 1,000 iterations.
Amazing.
Reached by Krebs on security, Palant said he never received a response from LastPass about why the company apparently failed to migrate some number of customers to more secure account settings, higher iterations. Palant wrote, I know exactly as much as everyone else. LastPass published some additional information last March. This finally answered the question about the timeline of their breach, meaning which users are affected. It also made it obvious that business customers are very much at risk here. Federated login services being highly compromised in this breach. Palant said upon logging into his LastPass account a few days ago, he found his master password was still set at 5,000 iterations, which is pretty darn weak. As I said, I set mine at 2 million. LastPass was recommending 100,100. I think you should. It's worth examining your iterations. You can. There's tools out there if you search for it. Read this article by Brian Krebs. I think it's very complete. And I think the other shoe has dropped. We now are starting to hear it's not conclusive, but there seems to be strong evidence that somebody has started to crack keys that were stolen in the LastPass breach a year ago.
I should point out, I said something a moment ago that wasn't, I just double checked on 1Password. If they changed in January of this year, they dramatically increased the iterations from 100,000 to 650,000. You do have to change your password, although you can keep it the same. You just have to run an operation to upgrade to the new one. But 1Password's trick, which they started years ago, is they don't have Apple and some other companies and many Android models now have a secure enclave or another kind of what's Microsoft's term, the trusted identity module, something like that, so that there's a local device encryption that's mixed with other information, so that you have to have the local device plus a password. So even cracking the password doesn't help. 1Password did a version of this where they create a secret key on every device in which you install 1Password, so it's all mixed. So even if you crack the 1Password vault password, you still can't decrypt the 1Password vault. So the password should be strong, but there's this other element that's a device-based encryption element. But if you want to increase, which now that I read this, I'm like, oh, I need to do this. If you want to get your password up to the maximum protection, you just have to essentially change it even back to itself, and they'll regenerate the key and get you up to the latest iteration.
Yeah, Bitwarden has a actual setting that you can regenerate the
you just hit
the key
button in it.
Yeah.
Does it? Yeah. It's good.
Read OWASP, which I have to look up because it stands for the Open Worldwide Application Security Project. But it is a trusted resource Steve's referred to many times, has a password storage cheat sheet, which I would recommend. We'll put in a link in the show notes that you should read about hashes. They say do use Argon 2, and they have a recommendation for settings. Then if Argon 2 is not available, which it isn't on most password managers, it is on Bitwarden, use scrypt. For legacy systems, use bcrypt. And this is the only reason PBK DF2 survived, is because FIPS 140 required it, which is bad. But if you have to use it because of FIPS 140 compliance, use at least 600,000 iterations or more. This is the current OWASP recommendation. That number keeps going up as GPUs get faster and faster. And also considering using, I've never heard of this, a pepper. We've talked about salting hashes, but consider using a pepper
and pepper,
full flavor, to provide additional defense in depth. And so there's a lot of information about hashing versus encryption, how attackers crack it. The Brian Krebs article is good.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Never came across the pepper before. So you add input. So you add a secret to a password during hashing as opposed to the salt that's stored alongside it.
Right.
The pepper is kept separately elsewhere, like in a hardware security module. Well, that's clever. Salt and pepper.
Yeah, and then the pepper, that's where you get that hardware security, that secure
there's
enclave.
The phone companies work with the FTC to develop this, the FCC to develop this secure caller ID verification system that's been slowly rolling out onto phones and things.
Shaken and stirred, right?
Shaken and stirred. They worked hard to force those names in there, but salt and pepper, shaken and stirred. Come on, you gotta have it.
That's a. What do they call it? Is it a retronym? When you Congress does this all the time. They've got a bill and then they reverse engineer it so it means something. I think shaken and stirred is a retronym.
Do you know the classic one was physicist Hans Bethe? He wrote a paper and he wanted it to be funny, so he signed up his friend Alpha and Gamma.
Oh,
so it's
no.
the Alpha, Beta, Gamma paper.
Wow.
They were not involved.
I read George Gamow as a child. He has the best physics books, 1, 2, 3, Infinity. And he did something called Mr.
Gamow. Sorry.
Yeah, I think it's pronounced. I don't know. I never knew how it's pronounced.
Probably.
I'm guessing Gamow. He did one about Mr. Tompkins in a 2D world. Really, he was a brilliant physicist, very involved in quantum physics, but wrote some of the best books on physics for the people like me. The lay person. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, Infinity.
I was just repeating
fantastic.
A bad joke, and there you go. And there's actual meaning.
There's an actual
behind it.
Gamow to go with the alpha and the beta.
Alpha, beta, beta, gamma.
I read this to my daughter when she was like 8. I'm sure she understood none of it. But she loved Mr. Tompkins. She thought that was fantastic because it was about a guy living in a 2D world, and it was a way of learning about dimensions and stuff.
Flat Stanley.
Yeah, It was kind of Flat Stanley before there was Flat Stanley. Looks like Mr. Tompkins. Both of these books are so old that they're really not in print. But Dover and who's this that's publishing? Canto are reprinting these. Mr. Tompkins.
Oh, that's really sweet. What a lovely thing.
Yeah, yeah. I have fond memories of 60 years old at least. But Abby loved them. Let's see here. Where we stand time-wise. All right, let's do a change log.
Change log.
We have so many stories we haven't gotten to yet. Here, I'll just cover some of the headlines.
Lightning round.
Google change
It's a lightning round. Google is updating the Android brand. Did you see the new Android logo for Android 14?
Thank you, Mr. Benito. That was perfect.
Boom, put-em.
What?
It's a 3D logo. I guess to help connect Android to Google. I don't know. It's modernized.
Sure.
This modernized logo. There you go. Here's a video just for your delectation. Look, I got to put some Google in here, and nobody's going to buy it. That it's called This Week in Google. There you go. There's your Google. You happy? You happy now? Android 14, it looks like. Michelle Rahman is great. Michelle was a regular on All About Android.
Yeah.
And is really, he gets the scoops. He had a couple of big scoops. One, and he's reporting this, I haven't seen confirmation yet, but he says he's hearing that the source code release of Android 14 has been delayed until the release of the new Pixel phone, which will be October 4th. And he has some concern because OEMs thought that Android 14 would come out yesterday, that maybe there's an issue. OEMs are now being told that vulnerabilities detailed in the Android 14 security release notes won't be published till October 4th. So maybe that's why it's being held off. So if you were waiting for Android 14, your wait continues for yet another month. Google keeps, Michelle's got this story too, keeps leaking out information about the Pixel. There's not going to be anything we don't know about the Pixel 8 by the time this is done.
It's so stupid. They're doing everything they can to try to be relevant in this space.
You think they're doing it on purpose?
Fight so hard.
I mean, they keep putting out these accidents, images and so forth, unintentional, revelations. Google leaked. Here's the leak. The Pixel 8 Pro, a full 360-degree view of the phone, confirming the colors. Ready for the colors? Licorice, black. Porcelain, gray. Sky, blue. There is a weird yellow dot on the back of it. You see it right there? Some people thought maybe that's the NFC target. It says temperature sensor, but I don't know if it's pointing to that dot or not.
Hold it up to your forehead.
Yeah. Yeah.
You sick.
Yeah.
Put it up to your forehead and somebody punch you in the face.
Oh.
Is that what that is?
Bonk. Put it right
That
there.
old joke.
Put it right
Does that
there.
have like 7 cameras in the back of that, though?
It does have a lot of, well, I think a lot of sensors.
I don't have that. What is that, tryptophobia? Or something? I don't have that.
1, 2,
Yeah,
3,
tryptophobia.
4, 5, 6, 7. Boy, you count fast. I could tell you're a true Jeopardy champion.
Trypophobia. Yes. I'm sorry. I do not have trypophobia.
Trypophobia is the fear of 7?
Fear of holes. Things with holes in them. It's I think it's a neurological thing because it's people will get queasy. They'll feel ill. Like they can look at Swiss cheese or a grater or a bunch of camera lenses. It's uncontrollable. And it's not like, I was, my mother was.
People feel that way too, right?
My mother was scared by Swiss cheese as a child. It's just, it's.
So, John, you're saying there's a subreddit devoted to the fear of holes?
Oh, my God. It's a subreddit for everything. I mean, literally.
Is it called, what is it, Trypophobe?
Trypo, trypophobia, disgust or fear of a pattern of holes. There's a wonderful British comedian, Bridget Christie, who appears regularly on the QI sort of fun information show in the UK. And every time she's on now, she mentions she had it. And they torture her, maybe unintentionally, but they're always like, they're showing something on screen when she's on it. It's like it's a pattern. And she's like, I can't look at that. And it's giant because they have giant screens behind both of the.
So it's holes and patterns.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. But I remember usually hearing the patterns was a neurological issue for some people.
It's like you look at like a hornet nest or literally Swiss cheese or isn't it funny?
Tomatoes.
Yeah.
So disgusting.
It's just
that's really interesting. Yeah, maybe your mom was scared by a piece of Swiss cheese. I don't know.
Frightened by a Swiss. It's just one of those things. The brain is a really weird thing. We're trained to recognize patterns, and sometimes they trigger bad responses.
My side note: my dog Biscuit was sick a couple weekends ago. It wasn't really sick. He definitely had an allergic reaction. So it gave him hives. And so you have this little white dog walking around and he had these weird hives on his back and on his face. And my son couldn't look at him. Every time my son saw him, my son would just scratch and just uncontrollably. It really affected him. And my sister-in-law, she's the same way. They see patterns a certain way and it really freaks them out. And
tell them it's a sign of intelligence. Clearly.
Oh gosh, if I believe that with my sister-in-law, I'm still worried about that with the hard head, though.
I used to have Nest cameras all over, and I have a Hello doorbell, and I used to pay for the Nest Aware subscription, and it wasn't at the time. It didn't seem too expensive because after your first couple of cameras, it was all included. Whoa, get ready, stand back. They are going to raise the price of Nest Aware big time. It's currently $8 a month or $80 annually.
Excuse me.
It was $6 and $60. It is going $15 now, $150. It's going up. It's going up. The new Nest Aware cost will be. Wait a minute. I got confused.
Yeah, you had it right.
Did I have it right?
The 8 is the increase.
Oh, it's okay. Monthly or yearly subscription, $8 a month. Previously $6. Okay.
Yep.
But the Nest Aware Plus, $15 a month.
That's big. Yeah.
Yeah. It was $12. I think I have the $12 a month one. So I'm seeing a lot of people saying, is there anything we can do and get rid of these cameras?
Right.
But I think everybody's, because what's happening with Nest is they're recording it, storing it, and you can go look at it after the fact. And it's been useful when our newspaper delivery lady ran over our mailbox. I had video. I had video of it. We were in Europe. And I could look and say, oh, yeah, I see who did that. She was nice. She said, I'll pay for it. I said, no, not necessary. We were going to...
We got you on camera.
But I do have video in case you want to see.
Somebody stole my Tivas off my porch. Or an
Who
animal
would want
took them.
used Tivas?
This is the
Those
most
are
drastic crime
sandals,
that's ever
right?
happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've stole a neat sheet, like a blanket you sit on a park, and Tivas. There were tons of other stuff on our porch, and our camera didn't catch it because we can't use infrared mode because we got it inside. So, or it could have been an animal, it could have been a raccoon, but it was the weirdest thing. Like I've reviewed all the camera footage, like nobody was caught. And I'm like, so I need to get an infrared outdoor camera now, clearly, to find out who stole my Tivas.
I cried when I saw a man who had no Tivas until I saw a man who had no feet. Ancient Chinese proverb. Google, I don't know. It was stuck in my brain somewhere. I don't think I can use it on Jeopardy, but it's there. It's stuck in there. Google Chrome pushes browser history-based ad targeting. This is topics, but here's the deal. It's not just we've talked about this on this show. We've talked about it with Steve Gibson. Google, as you know, is really trying to figure out some way that it can appease advertisers, give them information about you without annoying you so much that you use an ad blocker, and then all bets are off. So Topics is their latest thing, part of their privacy sandbox project. The EFF and Mozilla and others are saying we still don't like Topics. Steve likes it, saying, well, it's the best of it's the best of all evils. But get ready, because it's not just in your browser. Topics are now coming to apps on the Android store. So you can turn it off easily in Chrome. Well, not that easily, but you can dig around. And if you search the internet, you'll find ways to do it. But now it looks like they're going to also support Topics in the Google Play Store for apps, which means, so you're using an app, it's got an ad. The app can query other apps on your phone, query your phone about what apps you have to figure out what your interests are to show you a related ad. Does that bother you?
Yeah, I don't want it. I don't need that kind of cross communication between apps.
Yeah, I feel like they shouldn't be talking to each other. They should.
Right.
They should, shut up. Anyway, this coming soon to an
Most
Android.
people are not going to care, though.
Well, most people aren't even going to know. You're only going to know if you listen to shows like this or Security Now.
Right.
So it's coming to Chrome. It's in Chromium. Brave, Vivaldi, and Opera, 3 browsers based in Chromium, have all said, we're not going to do Topics. Don't worry. I'm sure Firefox is not doing Topics. That's my preferred browser. But if Microsoft has not yet said whether they're going to put Topics in Edge, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did. So something to be aware of. And this is the least thing Google could do for you Workspace customers. You now can lock files so that nobody
Mr.
can
Jarvis.
change them. It's literally the least thing they could do to say, hey, we have a new feature. When the file is locked, no one with any level of access can make edits, comments, or suggestions. It's read-only until you unlock it. Woohoo!
Sure.
And that's
Big news.
big news. The Google changed. Big news. All right. I think it's time to get your picks of the week in just a moment, if you don't mind. So prepare those, if you will. Jeff Jarvis will be back next week, as will Kathy Gellis, filling in. As you know, we've got a gaping hole in our hearts. Stacey Higginbotham has left the show. She's left her other podcast, too, to focus full-time on her work, her advocacy work for Consumer Reports, which is fantastic. We're very proud of her.
Yeah.
But, Ant, there's good news. Stacey is going to continue to do the book club.
That's right. That's right. Still going to be doing the book club for our wonderful Club Twit members. We met last week and discussed Anne Leckie's translation state. Had a very good time on that, and now we're in the middle of voting on our next book, which is probably going to be a John Scalzi book.
Oh, how fun! Well, that
Red
ties.
shirts?
Won't be red shirts. It's looking like Kaiju Preservation Society, I believe is how you pronounce it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
How cool. But the voting's still going on, right? If you're a member of Club Twit, you can still go and vote. Okay.
Yeah, go vote now.
We seem to have a leader.
48 hours.
It's not a full coincidence that Scalzi will be on. You're going to interview him on Thursday, October 5th in a fireside chat for our club members.
Hey.
Yes, sir.
How'd you get that?
To it.
You are
guy.
All I can say is, Mr. Laporte, I just ask.
You're good. So he gets Hugh Howey, who is the creator of Wool, which is the source material for Silo on Apple TV Plus.
Great.
Tomorrow, Hugh, who got, by the way, and you got to ask him about this, he got married at Burning Man.
See, I don't know if that was a wedding. I thought he was already married.
Oh, and he just then his
reception.
Wife was dressed up as a bride.
Right.
I don't know.
I thought he was already married.
Well, ask him.
We can find out because it's on Twitter. It's on public space, so we can ask him about it.
Yeah, he was at Burning Man.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Here in Reddit, it says Hugh Howey getting married in Burning Man was not on my 2023 bingo card, but I am. This looks like he got married. And in fact, I think the tweet was,
"Oh, the plastic."
They say rain on your wedding day is good luck. They also say it has never rained in the playa like this before.
Okay.
Pretty sure it was my fault for being the luckiest man in the world. But you know what? You can verify that tomorrow, 2 p.m. Hugh Howey and together in conversation with Daniel Suarez, my good friend, who's the author of Freedom and Demon and Kill Zone and
Freedom TM.
Oh, so many great books. That should be fun. Two of our best science fiction authors.
Yeah. Wow. When I spoke with Mr. Howey in that conversation, he alluded to having other authors check out some of his work before he sent it for publishing or what have you. And I said, well, who in particular? And he was like, one was Daniel Suarez. I'm like, really? We love Daniel Suarez. We got to get you two in the room together and sit down and have a chat. And he was like, yeah, let's do that. And
fantastic.
Again, just ask.
Very nice. And ask him about his bride because she's wearing plastic bags on her feet. You know,
it was very good strategy.
You know, it's funny because President Biden was briefed on the crisis at Burning Man. All the news, there was so much schadenfreude, so much gleeful pleasure in the misfortune of others. The poor burners stuck in the mud. And the burners were saying, what are you talking about? It always rains at the playa. We were going to stay till Tuesday anyway. They're coming home now. Everything's fine. This is what Burning Man's all about.
Right. Look, everybody got everything they wanted. The burners didn't care, and everybody got free Schadenfreude. Didn't have to pay for it.
Free Schadenfreude.
I think everybody win.
Free Schadenfreude. Yeah, it was like people were acting like it was the end of the world, and I believed it at first. I thought, oh my God, this is terrible, because we know so many people who were there, including Cory Doctorow, and he had brought Rebecca Giblin, his co-author for Choke Point Capitalism, for the first time, and I thought, oh, what a bad experience. No, everybody had a great time.
Right.
It was just Chris Rock and Diplo, who said, we got to get out of here.
They had a good time walking out. Yeah. It's funny. I mean, I think the reason it's like 70,000 people in the middle of nowhere. Let's say it had kept raining and they had the kind of rain that have elsewhere. I think the concern was, do they have to bring in military transport to get people out? You know, that's probably that's a lot of people without any real way to get them in and out.
It rains all the time at Burning Man. It's not unusual this time of year.
Not that much. I guess.
It was a lot. It was muddy. Nobody died because of the rain. I think somebody died, but it wasn't because of the rain. It was probably just the brown acid.
Well,
I think it's
any group of 70,000 people for a week.
Yeah, it's like Woodstock. 3 kids were born. You know, it's what happens. Anyway, that should be fun. That's tomorrow for that interview. I cannot be here, as it turns out. I'm sorry. I was hoping I could, but I will be listening. But I am stuck. So
we can have you Zoom in if we need to.
Well, I have an appointment. But anyway, that will be good. Lou Maresca, September 28th. As I said, Scalzi, October 5th. If you're not yet a member of Club Twit, I have to ask, why not? Right. Ann is doing a bang-up job in our clubhouse, putting together these great events.
That old farts photo is hilarious. Is that AI or just Photoshop?
I think that's Anthony. So
good old
Anthony,
I did all of the images in here.
Anthony Nielsen is going to be part of a fireside chat. He is our AI magician here at Twit. He's amazing, and he came up with this illustration. The old farts are Jeff Jarvis, Doc Searles, and myself.
Doc Searles?
Yeah, but it actually it's a better picture.
Yeah, I pulled that out of Firefly. I prompt into Firefly to come up with the old farts art.
Oh, you did it? Oh, nice.
Yes, sir. I do all of the art for these.
Oh, very nice.
In Discord.
So this is Adobe Firefly.
I have no life.
So no artists were harmed in the making of this image. That's good.
No, sir. Just a few egos.
You also get mine. Which one am I, Ant? Which one of the three am I?
Of course, you're always front and center, Mr.
I'm the
McCord.
smiley guy with the big beard. I was thinking of growing a beard till I saw this. Now I'm going, maybe not. I don't want to look like Santa Claus. If you are not yet a member of Club Twit, it is well worth it. $7 a month. You get ad-free versions of all the shows, no ad tracking. You get access to the Club Twit Discord where a party is going on all the time. And it really is a great place all day long and all night long to chat about your favorite nerdy topics, including sci-fi, but a lot of other, food and beverages and so forth. And, of course, stickers. All you got to do is go to twit.tv/clubtwit. $7 a month, $84 a year. There's family plans if you want everybody in the family to listen in.
There's also single show plans too for folks that
don't tell people about that.
Feel like $7 is a little too
Why
much.
would you only $4 more to get everything? $2.99 you get a show. That's it.
That's it. So
pay $4 more, you get everything.
One less cup of coffee a month. That's it.
And there's no Discord with a single show. You don't get seals of approval. You don't get access to the special events. You just get the show. But no, you know what? There are people like, maybe you. Anything helps. I don't know if you've noticed it. Podcasts, it's tough right now. It's really tough right now. And I don't think it's going to get any better, but we want to keep going. We're one of the oldest, longest running shows in the podcast universe. I think, we bring you quality programming on a variety of subjects, and we want to keep going. The club is what helps us do that. So thank you in advance. $7 a month, twit.tv/clubtwit. Or if you're a cheapskate, $2.99. If you just want one show, $2.99. There are people that do that, don't they? And we also, by the way, that's the cup of coffee. And also, oh, Lord. One thing the IRC, which is free, does not have is animated GIFs. Now, that may be a good thing. Depends on your point of view.
This is true.
But we do have many animated GIFs in the club. I don't know if you want to do a pick of the week, Glenn. I mean, you're a guest in our house, but if you would.
I got one.
All right.
I got a book.
A book?
I got a book. It's it's invisible. Why is it invisible? I thought I just turned off. That's hilarious. I just turned off my green screen.
Wait a minute. You're not really in your office?
I am in my office, but why is it? I got to do. Hold on 1 second. Technology. There we go.
Oh, your office has changed.
Different book.
Oh,
that's hilarious. You know what is showing behind me was the fake. This is the real office, but I have a backdrop that looks like. Oh, that's now my head hurts. I was showing you the fake version of.
You didn't know you were doing that?
No, I didn't know because it's identical. It's a picture of that. So I didn't know.
But wait a minute, turn it on again because it's a little different.
So
it's a different color.
Oh, that's
isn't it?
so weird. Okay, so this is my.
This is real. Which do you prefer?
Fake office.
Oh, look.
That's the fake. That's the fake office, and this is the real office.
You just shifted basically.
Real. I did not know. I was showing you my. God, it's too funny.
I'm in Room Raider hell right now.
That's so weird. Oh, that's so weird. Well, so
now we can see the book. Empire of the Sum.
The Rise and Reign of the Pocket Calculator by my pal Keith Houston. Great book from Norton. Not a self-published effort. Keith didn't go the route that Martina and I did. And he actually had somebody else edit and publish the dang thing. But it's a great book. It's about the history of the pocket calculator. And unbelievably, there's no book out there that's quite like this. Once you hear that, you're like, gosh, somebody should write this. Keith wrote Shady Characters, which is the secret life of punctuation marks. In fact, those books are right behind me.
That's hysterical.
Right there.
You can reach and get them. Good.
And he also wrote a book called The Book. And the book is about the history of the book. Oh. Really good stuff. So he and I bonded over his book writing, lovely guy. And it's a really, I'm about halfway through, well, actually more than that, because he actually uses endnotes. Terrific, engaging writing, and very good. It was very funny because Marcin was already years into working on Shift Happens. And then I heard from Keith, oh yeah, I'm working on this book about keyboards. I was like, oh no, we're gonna have two competing books. And then it was pocket calculators and their key. And so Marcin actually provided some images for Keith of things that he dug up too. So Marcin's thanked in the back, which is very nice. So very complimentary books.
He's probably mentions, I saw this in Tokyo. There's of course, the excellent Tokyo Museum. They had a abacus calculator, which I guess was a transitional object from the World War II era, but it had an abacus, and then physically part of it was also a pocket calculator. Maybe it was the 60s, but I guess calculators really came of age in the 80s, 70s, and 80s.
Well, I learned so much already because the history of the calculator is a history of computation. So, there's calculators that had were hardwired.
We had slide rules when I was in. I am so old that when I was in high school,
until I read this, I didn't understand what it was.
I have a giant demonstration slide room in the office.
Mr. Jammer B probably has us covered right about now.
Oh man,
I've
seen them.
Yeah,
I didn't know what they did. Now I understand it.
Well, and I remember when calculators came out, and they were really expensive. In maybe 6th or 7th grade, they weren't very good. And then I remember some kid, probably in high school, had a Seiko calculator watch that had a little stylus that you would, because it was too small for you to your fingers on the buttons. So a little stylus that would come out and you would tap the watch and do your calculations on the watch.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, I got a picture of myself from college wearing doing a pose with my fancy Casio.
Oh, you had one of those. Oh.
Yeah, 1986.
I don't remember my first calculator. I remember, I think I probably didn't have one because at first they were so expensive. And then, of course, by the time my kids were in high school, and probably your kids too, the hardheads, you had to buy a calculator. I mean, that was going to be, they needed that for
graphing one.
Math. Yeah.
It was expensive.
Yeah, the TI graphing calculator.
TI-85.
Yeah.
Never improved on it, and they have a monopoly, and they keep that price locked in.
Well, there's a sad story about how TI kept Apple from putting its graphing calculator on the Mac for years because they didn't want to undermine the sales of graphing calculators. They were saying, well, kids will use it to cheat or whatever. But
my wife was smart. She went to a pawn shop and bought a used one for my kid.
Because every 10th grader had one. Never used it again. Did you have to do that, Aunt, for the hardheads?
We had, did not. But I remember being in high school and having to get that TI-85 or whatever. My mom's was like, nope, not buying that. It's too expensive. So I had a TI-1795 Plus that I had to figure out how to make work. And I'm grateful for that.
You probably could program that one. Did you make it say boobs when you turn it upside down?
No comment.
Just try that with, the program PCalc, my friend James Thompson's long running. If you type in the numbers and in PCalc, it gives an error. It's really cute. If you type in dirty things, it'll tell you to not do it.
Nice.
I think the Apple engineer who wrote Graphing Calculator did it. He snuck into the company.
He snuck in. Story?
Yes.
He wasn't working there, and he managed to work somehow. Do it he got card keyed in for months until it was discovered, and then everybody flipped out, and they wound up paying him something to include it because they were worried. They were worried about there was some, I can't remember the whole kerfuffle, but in the end, it's an amazing. He basically snuck in for several months to write it on his own time.
Go to nucalc.com/story. The graph, it's Ron Avitzer. He said, I used to be a contractor for Apple working on a secret project, but the computer we were building never saw the light of day. So in August 93, the project was canceled. I was unemployed. Frustrated, I decided to uncancel my small part of the project. I'd been paid to do a job, and I wanted to finish it. My electronic badge still opened Apple's doors. This is 93. So I kept showing up. Apple's engineers knew it. Some of them knew what I was up to. They thought it was cool. Whenever I gave demos, my colleague said, I wish I'd had that when I was in school. He was doing the graphing calculator. Those working on Apple's project to change the microprocessor in its computer to the PowerPC were especially supportive. They thought it'd be a great demo for the new machine. None of them was able to hire me, however. So I just...
That's a good story.
I just showed up.
Showing up. It's like I had savings. I just decided.
People around the Apple campus saw us all the time and assumed we belonged. Few asked who we were or what we were doing. When someone did ask me, I never lied, but relied on the power of corporate apathy. The conversations usually went like this. Do you work here? No. You mean you're a contractor? Actually, no. But then who's paying you? No one. How do you
reverse Milton?
How do you live? I live simply. What are you doing here? At that point, I'd give a demo, explain the project had been canceled, but I was staying to finish it anyway.
So great.
For the power of corporate apathy. Mr. Ant Pruitt, your pick of the week.
My pick, I want to give a shout out to member Mr. Joe Esposito. Was part of the photo walk and had some photos that were pretty daggum good.
Oh, did he post them?
Into the Discord here. And he asked for some critiques on it. And I gave him some critiques. And next thing I know, I see that he's made a video going through those images based on my critiques and went through and made some different edits and enhancements and things like that. And it was nicely done. And it's nice to see that, you know, what I saw in my head from a criticism standpoint seemed to work for him. So
he does. Joe's really a talented Photoshop artist, and he does YouTube streams for his Ozone Art Foundry, and he has the Ozone Night School. And so here he is. This is Petaluma. I recognize it. Here he is.
You know that, Allie.
Yeah, I know exactly where that is. That's cool. So he's editing
right there,
these.
He's trying to eliminate Mr. Victor.
Oh, but that was Victor. Oh, how funny. This is cool.
Yeah, it was a good video. I appreciate it.
Oh, Joe, I'm glad you went. Joe Doodle's Photoshop special. It's the Ozone Nightmare. Everybody should subscribe to Joe's Ozone Nightmare YouTube video.
Go show him some love, y'all.
Yeah, he does some great stuff. Really great stuff.
And lastly, I just want to shout out the boy, even though I hate we lost 35-34.
Oh, that kills. Oh.
But I'm so proud of him in this effort. Just 5 touchdowns in the game. Barely threw the ball because, quite frankly, we couldn't throw the ball. And he ended up with 12 carries.
Is he number 4 there?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, he's playing quarterback.
What? Yeah, good. There he goes. There he goes. He goes all the way.
That's just one of them. There was 5.
5 rushing touchdowns?
5 rushing touchdowns.
Wait, I'm sorry. Explain that final score, though. So what was the...
so he scored all the touchdowns for the team.
Got all the... Yeah, and the other team had, what,
points.
4 field goals? Or what they...
No, they scored. They scored 2, but... both teams missed extra points, and the defeat was because of the missed extra points. And there's another.
He might be.
Long way.
He will be. He's going all the way. Touchdown.
Yeah.
You must be so proud.
61 rushing yards.
261 yards
on 12 carries.
Oh my God!
And all of his touchdowns were at least 60 yards, I think. Yeah, it was a hell of a day. Quite proud of him. I just hate we lost.
Great.
Now. How is the recruiter situation
right here was
going
funny
on?
Because this is going 80 yards, but he jogs at about 30 yards to go.
He says, I got it. Right. There's no one near me. I'm just going to trot the rest of the way. I got it.
Oh, my God.
He might be. He could be.
Caught, as they say.
Yeah, he's going all the way.
Could not be caught.
Yeah. Oh, at Petaluma High. Oh, man.
Yeah, and we beat Petaluma the other weekend, and he had a good game against Petaluma. Miss Debbie saw him.
Oh, nice.
Saw him play in that game.
Oh. But he goes to Redwood. Or no, where does he go?
Go to Rancho.
Rancho, that's it. Yeah. Rancho versus Redwood. 1 point. Wow.
One daggone
What a
point.
heartbreaker.
Yeah.
How's the recruiting thing going, by the way? I guess it's,
still all talk right now. Nobody's saying anything seriously, just a bunch of sales folks. So I'm not going to take anybody seriously if they don't.
He's the Nick Bosa of college football. He's getting right up to the edge. Right up to the edge on the
time.
Junior year? This is senior year.
This is his senior year.
So you would have liked to have known by now because the college football started.
Yeah, we both wanted to get it out of the way, but You know, so we're doing our part as far as the applications and stuff.
So you're going to
like
do a
that.
gap year and then
go
work
from
on
there.
next year?
Well, we'll see. We have no idea, especially with track season coming too. That may open
That's
up
right.
some
He's a
other
track
opportunities too.
He's a track star too. What a talent. We love you, Jacob. Hang in there.
Right on.
And we love you, Aunt
Navy
Pruitt.
offered him Mandy the Cloud says Navy will take him, and Mandy the Cloud, Navy did offer him a scholarship. I'm going to put that in air quotes. But if
You need a
those
full
who don't
ride.
know,
You need the full
you're going to
ride.
have to serve after that.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you
How many
play
years do you have
4
to
years,
do?
And then you serve your 4 years after that.
4
So
years. And he didn't want
that's
to do
why I
that.
put
Yeah.
that. I mean, we're not throwing it away, but we know there's an option.
Is
for
that the Naval Academy? Is that Annapolis?
Annapolis? Yes, sir.
Wow. So he could have gone into Annapolis, but he just wanted to see what else he had going on.
He actually would like to stay over here.
Yeah.
Just to be honest with you,
Maryland's nice
He'd like to
this
stay
time
over
of
here
year.
in this area.
You should, I'm not sure I'd want to be in the service right now. You never, you might end up going somewhere. Yeah. All right. Well,
Maybe on the cybersecurity side.
that's it. He could wear those BDUs, the ones with the matrix letters going down.
right.
Hey, thank you, Aunt. You're great. I appreciate it. And I'm sorry that I made you go home, but thank you for being very supportive and generous of that.
It's all good.
I did it for Mama.
I do.
Yeah. Next week,
respect that.
I will be in Rhode Island. I'm going out to visit Mom. We're moving her into a assisted living facility. She's very excited about that. I am too. She's 90. She needs the support. And I wanted to be there for the move, so we're going out. But of course, it's the same day Apple's doing its event on Tuesday, and then there's Mac Break Weekly, and then on Wednesday there's Twigs. So, in true podcaster fashion, I will be doing the show from Mom's basement, and I'll probably be doing it in my jammies. I'm just saying.
Are you going to start each show with "Hey guys"? You go,
Hey guys,
Are you gonna be tearing lobster apart as you're sitting there?
Oh,
Now, what are you
lobster
gonna, crab
roll
or lobster?
My craving every time I go back there is for clam cakes. Have you ever had a clam cake?
I have not had a clam cake.
I've had some good ones. There's Dungeness clam over here. You've been
I love Dungeness clam. But there's nothing.
Crab. I'm sorry.
There's nothing.
Clam cake.
Clam cake. You're talking about crab cake.
I heard crab cake.
No, and I love crab cakes, but clam cakes, basically, it's a fried piece of dough with little bits of clam. And let me see if they're still open after Labor Day, because they do close down for the winter. But these are the best. Oh my God, they're so good. They're so good. And they do have probably the lobster roll. They do. Warm, buttered tail and claw meat, mayo, Old Bay fries.
There you go.
And I might get the clam cake and chowder combo.
Cake. Never heard of it before.
Never heard of a clam cake. Oh, Lord. They're in a little...
is a clam pizza.
Pepe's.
Pizza, clam base.
Clam and
so
garlic
good.
pizza from Pepe's New Haven. That's it. That's the only way. Maybe I'll go do that. There's a Pepe's in Providence, too, but I might have to drive to New Haven. In any event, that's where I will be next week. Glenn Fleischman, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us. We always love to see you.
Pleasure to be here. Sorry for my fake background. I don't know what.
I didn't even notice.
Really confusing.
I didn't even notice until you did that disappearing book trick.
It's hilarious.
Wow.
Very confusing.
Very impressive. I'm impressed. Glenn.fun, GLENN.FUN is the place to go to find out all of the things Glenn does. Don't forget Shift Happens. That book is still available. Last few copies. Get it before it ships. Shifthappens.site.
Few short weeks.
Really? You have to take them to the post office? Really?
Oh my God! No, we've got the. Thank God.
Oh God. Okay.
It is. Just by the way, it is 60,000 pounds of books. Just
wow. Yikes!
Conceptualize the thing.
Yikes!
I'm not touching it.
What a great feeling of accomplishment, though, when you ship those
my
out.
God.
That's great.
Yeah. Martine's even like, how many copies would you like? And I'm like, I don't know how many I could fit in my house. I don't know.
It's a big book. It's a big book.
Weightlifting, yeah.
All righty. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We do Twig Wednesday afternoon, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. Until we go to Standard Time, which is in November, we will be at 2100 UTC. I know some of you are leaving summertime soon, but we stay on our summertime until after Halloween because the Candy Manufacturers of America ordered it so. You think I'm joking?
Is that right?
Oh,
that
yeah. No, Obama.
That's a great one.
So remember, they moved they tried to save energy. They expanded the daylight saving time window because everybody loves it. And they were going to make it like the last weekend in October. And the candy companies said, you're going to ruin a Halloween. So they made it, it's easy to remember now. It's always the weekend after Halloween.
Funny.
Spare me.
Amazing.
Got to get that sugar, kids. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. You can get this show. If you're not watching live, by the way, live.twit.tv is a stream. If you're not watching live, you can get the show on demand, twit.tv/twig. You can watch it on YouTube. There is a YouTube channel for This Week in Google. And probably the best thing is search for Twig or This Week in Google or Twit in your favorite podcast player and subscribe to this show. Subscribe to all of our shows. They're all great. And that way you'll always have something you can listen to. You know, you're on your way somewhere. Just say, I want to hear some Twig. We thank you all so much for being here. And we will see you next time, me in my mom's basement for This Week in Google. Bye-bye.
Hey, I'm Rod Pyle, Editor-in-Chief of Ad Astra Magazine, and each week I join with my co-host to bring you This Week in Space, the latest and greatest news from the final frontier. We talk to NASA chiefs, space scientists, engineers, educators, and artists, and sometimes we just shoot the breeze over what's hot and what's not in space, books, and TV. And we do it all for you, our fellow true believers. So whether you're an armchair adventurer or waiting for your turn to grab a slot in Elon's Mars rocket, join us on This Week in Space and be part of the greatest adventure of all time.